to my channel, Adventures with Time, where I chronicle my experiences in watch collecting. Surfing through YouTube, I landed on a video containing useless science information. I thought it might be interesting to do a similar video, but on watches. Here are 10 minutes of useless information on watches. I hope you enjoy. Start the clock. Of the top 7 most expensive watches sold at auction, 6 were Patek Philippe watches with the top price of $31 million in 2019 going to the one-of-a-kind Grandmaster Chime, reference 6300A-010. The only non-Patek watch in this cohort was Paul Newman's racing Rolex Daytona, which brought almost $18 million. It's good to be rich. Time zones were invented in 1883 so that railroads could standardize their schedules. This system became official across all of the U.S. with the passage of the 1918 Standard Time Act. Watches on display in stores and in advertisements are usually set to 1010. This provides the clearest visibility of the dial design. The hands are positioned symmetrically and don't obscure the important parts of the dial. There is also a school of thought that at 1010 the hands form a happy face. Hence, 1010 is called the happy time. Wristwatches were originally made for women since women had no practical way of carrying a pocket watch. The most popular color for a watch dial is black. Queen Elizabeth wore her Jaeger-LeCoultre with the caliber 101 in it to her coronation in 1953. The caliber 101 is thought to be the smallest mechanical movement ever made. The origins of the 24-hour day come from ancient Egypt, where daytime was divided into 10 one-hour intervals, with an interval added at both dawn and twilight. Similarly, nighttime was divided into another 12 one-hour intervals. The division of hours and minutes into 60 intervals comes from ancient Babylonian, who liked to use numbers to the base 60. Margaret, it's 12:30. Years ago, we used to always call on the telephone to get the current time so we could set our clocks. A speaking clock, also called a talking clock, is a voice service accessed by the phone to get the current time. The first telephone speaking clock was introduced in France on February 14, 1933. In the UK, Ethel Kane won a competition to find the golden voice for their service, which was introduced on July 24, 1936. The mechanism to implement this service consumed a small room filled with motors, glass discs, photocells, and valves. Hey, get off my lawn, you whippersnappers. A mechanical watch with a standard 4 Hz movement will make over 20 billion ticks during a human's life. That's 7 times more than their heartbeats. Although today I think I'm giving the watch a run for its money. Albert Einstein once said, "Time is what a clock measures." But more recently, a group of physicists asserted that a clock is a thermal machine that harnesses the flow of energy to do work and produces exhaust, and that pretty much everything is a clock. In that, a clock is anything that undergoes irreversible changes. Hence, a cooling cup of coffee or rotting garbage can be a clock. Not a very good or accurate clock, but a clock nonetheless. Apple sells more iWatches than all Swiss watch brands put together.
Wow.
Did you know that if you took your watch apart and laid all the components end to end, your watch would stop working? A watch was once dropped off the Eiffel Tower to demonstrate its durability. This was the Weiler Incaflex in 1956. After it hit the ground, it continued running. Sacre bleu! They repeated this demonstration in 1956 off the Seattle Space Needle. According to Wikipedia, as of May 2019, the record for the deepest normally functioning experimental diving watch is held by the Omega Speedmaster Planet Ocean Ultra Deep Professional, which actually reached a depth of 10,925 meters during a descent to the bottom of the eastern pool of the Challenger Deep. It has been estimated that there are currently about 5 billion watches in the world today. But that's just a mathematical estimate based on annual production volumes. Of course, many of those watches probably don't work. Yep, that's the moon, how it appears to those of us in the northern hemisphere. It's also how it appears in some moon phase watches like the Omega Speedmaster. But those in the southern hemisphere see an image of the moon that is upside down from what we see in the northern hemisphere. That made me wonder if Omega makes a version of that watch for people in the southern hemisphere. I asked, but they don't. Moon phase complications will eventually become inaccurate, even if the movement keeps perfect time. That's because the moon drifts 3.8 centimeters away from the Earth each year, and the Earth's rotation is slowing down 2.3 milliseconds each century. Eventually, the Earth and moon will be in tidal lock. That means there will only be a single phase of the moon forever. Using bells to announce time on a ship dates back to the 15th century. Bells are used to determine intervals during a watch, a period of 4 hours during which a crew member would be on duty. Each watch is broken into 8 half-hour periods. A bell is rung a number of times so that it represents the number of half-hour intervals since the start of the watch. Wait, stop the clock. I just remembered that when I was a kid, I used to watch Popeye on the Captain Jack McCarthy show in New York City. He would open the show by ringing the bell so that we knew the time.
Clear bell. That means 9 o'clock. Welcome aboard and let's have fun.
Anyway, back to our useless information. Each watch during the 24-hour day has its own name. For example, middle watch, forenoon watch, first watch, etc. Nautical time allows ships at sea to express their local time. Nautical time zones are split into 1-hour intervals for every 15 degrees change in a ship's longitudinal coordinate. Only used for radio communications, each time zone is given a letter designation with Z or Zulu representing GMT 0. I already mentioned the extremely small JLC watch that Queen Elizabeth wore to her coronation. The current trend in watches is for larger and larger cases. I once tried on the Laco Flieger, sized as they were during World War II. This watch has a width of 55 millimeters. There are several watches with a case diameter around 65 millimeters. But the largest watch I've heard about is the Musk MR2129 with a whopping 90 millimeter case. A simple mechanical watch contains about 150 parts, most of which are in the movement. More complex watches can have several hundred parts. The Patek Philippe Caliber 89, built in 1989 to commemorate the company's 105th anniversary, is said to be the most complicated watch ever built. It has 33 complications and contains 1,728 parts. You probably have heard and know the meaning of the term Frankenstein watch, or Frankenwatch, as a watch created of parts from multiple other watches. But did you know that a mystery watch is one whose workings is not easily determined, because it seems to have no movement at all, or that the hands don't seem to be connected to any movement? Yes, there is such a thing as a left-handed watch. That is, watches that can be worn appropriately on one's right wrist. Panerai makes one. So does Sinn. It is possible to make a sundial that works at night, but it must be specifically made to work with the moon, and is called, wait for it, a moondial. And speaking of sundials, Fred Flintstone wore a sundial on his wrist. I wonder if he ever got Brontosaurus rib sauce on the dial. There are watches specifically made for the visually impaired. There are talking watches which speak the time. There are watches that have tactile elements like a moving ball and raised markers. There are even watches that display the time in braille. This one gets a bit deep. You've heard of the term space-time? Well, the shortest measurement of time is derived from a unit of distance called the Planck length. It is the distance where dimensions become so tiny that the classical laws of physics break down and quantum effects kick in. This is about 1.6 times 10 to the 35 meters. The smallest theoretical period of time, therefore, is the interval required for a proton traveling at the speed of light to cover this Planck length. That's just 0.5 times 10 to the minus 43 seconds. Certainly shorter than the 5-second rule. Zenith's Defy Lab watch is said to be the most accurate mechanical watch. Its movement beats at 15 hertz and has an accuracy of just 0.3 of a second per day. There you have it, 10 minutes of useless watch information. It was fun making that, and I must say, it's about time. Get it? I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in watches, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll leave a link here on a couple of other videos for you to sample my content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.